Day 2 of the trial of Christopher Behall. This is the Visions of Violence trial where the state of Iowa is prosecuting Christopher Behall for the death of his girlfriend, Taylor Escontrias. So, what happened? We're going to hear all about it from the crime scene investigator. And I've finally gotten a hold of what happened on day 1, testimony-wise, opening statement-wise, and I'm going to cover all that. Stay tuned. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And before I forget, hit that thumbs up button for me, pretty please, and consider subscribing. It's free. Anyway, what happened on day 1 that we missed? Opening statements, very brief. Apparently, the jury was told that Taylor Escontrias had been stabbed 23 times with a screwdriver, 17 times with a knife, and hit over the head with a baseball bat in the early morning hours of March 14th, 2024. So not quite a year ago. So they're moving things along in Iowa, getting these cases done. But there was also 3 witnesses that appeared after the opening statements. And apparently the defense opening statement was just keep an open mind, that, that kind of one of those brief statements where you don't really have anything to say. Keep an open mind. I will say the defense attorney is weird. She's wearing these dark glasses, like sunglasses. Like maybe she's had eye surgery recently. And then she wears this black mask. And it's just creepy looking. That's an aside. But anyway. So Michael Holland took the stand. He is a friend of Taylor Escontrias, and he said she has a ongoing history of struggles with alcohol and gets into these abusive relationships. So early on March 14th, he receives phone calls and texts from her saying, "Can you come pick me up?" And he doesn't because he had been drinking. How guilty must he feel? Oh my God. Anyway, then there was a man named Nick Seaman who took the stand. He, also a friend of Taylor Escontrias, he got several Facebook messages from her saying, this was late on the night of the 13th, saying, "If I get killed, it was Chris. Don't reply right now. He's nuts." He doesn't read them that night. He doesn't read them till 7 or 8 o'clock the next morning. 2 chances to be rescued, and it doesn't happen. So sad. Anyway, so that was what we missed on the very first day. It just did not get videotaped. So in any case, let's go back to where we left off. And that's with these investigators. So let me find where I left off. Hold on, there's a lot to cover here. Okay. Oh, did I talk about Dylan Carr? No, I didn't tell you about Dylan Carr. He also testified on day 1. Dylan Carr was the neighbor in the apartment directly below them, apartment 2. And strange kind of a guy. I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, to be honest with you. I'm thinking somebody transitioning, perhaps. I'm not sure. Anyway, this person heard banging and thumping coming from the above apartment. He was sitting there, she, whatever this person is, was watching TikTok videos, and he paused for a second because he heard this thumping and bumping, and then he just goes back to watching his TikTok videos and doesn't call the police. He said he regularly heard this couple having loud arguments. That would not be unusual. But no, he chose not to call the police that night. Okay. So the first person on the stand after lunch yesterday was a paramedic. That's where we left off, lunchtime. Paul Tucker, he arrived at the scene on March 14th about 1:56 a.m. This is the accident scene where Christopher Behall runs his car into a light pole. That's what got all of this rolling. And he said the car had significant front end damage, but but the driver, which is Christopher Behall, had no significant injuries, no obvious injuries. He appeared withdrawn. He was not quick to respond, but when he did respond, he thought it was an appropriate response. He was answering the questions appropriately. I heard him say he thought he was in the hospital. I don't know if that was an appropriate answer. He wasn't in a hospital, but that's what this paramedic testified to. He said he had a very flat affect, wasn't showing any kind of emotion. Listen, if you ever find me at an accident scene, I'm the one sobbing over in the corner. You're going to get a reaction. No reaction out of this guy. But we all saw it on the videotape. He was complaining of abdominal pain, so he was transported at 2:10 a.m. to the Genesis Hospital. And he did have a laceration or a puncture wound in the left lower groin area. And this same paramedic, after this is over, goes back into, his duties, and he's called to this address in Parkview where they have found the body of Taylor Escontrias. And his duty then was he was advised that there was a possible 1079, which is a deceased person at that address. So he responded. They put pads, the EKG pads, on her back, because they didn't really want to do a lot of touching. So they put them on her back. There was no pulse, and she was deceased. So her body was left there during all the photography, which we're going to hear about here. Her body was lying behind the front door with injuries that were not consistent with life, he said. So, yeah, on cross-examination, he was asked by the defense attorney, did Christopher Behall tell you how much vodka he drank? Half a gallon? And he said, yeah. Wow. First of all, vodka's terrible by itself. Anyway, okay. Next on the stand was Sheriff James Robbie. He was tasked with doing a welfare check at that Parkview address of 105 Crestview Drive, apartment 4. And I may have said 12 yesterday. It was apartment 4. So at 2:30 a.m., he knocks on the door and does not get a response. And he calls out, Sheriff's Department, a couple of times, loudly. No response. So, and he said no signs of foul play. So he leaves. When he leaves, he's asked to go over to a place called Fred's, which is where the car was towed after the accident. And he was asked to retrieve the cell phone and the knife and collect them as evidence from the car. He also tried to get the car keys, but they were locked in the ignition. I didn't know that was even possible, but okay. So he does that. Then he's called to the hospital to basically sit with Christopher Behall, because the deputy that was there had run out to the house to see, had run back to the apartment to see if this woman was okay. People were just going everywhere. So he goes over. He's just tasked with sitting with Mr. Behall. Now, this is after they've found the body. They've found the body, so he's gone over there. But one of the things he does at the hospital is he collects Christopher's clothing. He had on a red T-shirt. And the red T-shirt, it said, I didn't get the significance of it, but I wrote it down. What did it say? I can explain it to you, but I can't understand for you. That was what this red T-shirt said. Okay. Then he had on these white and gray shorts with black stripes. So that was all collected as evidence. And then he said he was present when they were suturing up his laceration. And when the doctor was exploring, he said it was about 2 to 4 inches in depth, this laceration that he had. And he took 6 photos at the hospital of Mr. Behall. And there was blood on the right foot. He had a cut on his left hand. His left foot and ankle had blood. He took a picture of the stab wound, and the torso and face had some blood on him. So I didn't get to see them. They didn't show them to us. The jury saw them. Then there was a man named Matt Lemon who took the stand. He works at a weather station out by the airport. This vehicle accident happened on a road out by the airport. And he was asked to pull security footage, which actually films where that accident was. But it was night. It was raining. So really all you could see on this video was the light pole. This little light in the left-hand corner of the video, it goes out at a certain time. And that was at 1:45 a.m. because there was a question like, how long was he unconscious? When did this accident really occur? So it seems like it occurred about 1:45 a.m. and the police got onto the scene pretty quickly after that. I don't know who called them. Let me see when the police got on the scene. 1:55. So 11 minutes had passed between the accident occurring and them arriving on the scene. So, and I don't know anything about this area, rural, whatever, but out by the airport, I would imagine it's fairly rural. But in any case, the next person on the stand was Deputy Slagle. He, right now he's doing drug enforcement, but at the time he was on road patrol. At 4:10 a.m., he is dispatched to go over to this Crestview apartment now, there's all these different deputies. So the deputy at the hospital calls his lieutenant, and the lieutenant has this deputy go basically with him. They arrive at the apartment at the same time, the lieutenant and this Deputy Slagle. So they go up to the apartment, and he said they called out, and they showed the footage, but we didn't see anything good. We just heard him calling out. So he's like, sheriff's department, and he knocks on the door. There's no response a couple of times. Then he notices, he tries the door, and he says he felt like it was locked, but then he tried it again and pushed in, and the door was open. And he found her body behind the door. Once they did that, they entered the apartment to make sure there were no other victims or perpetrators in the apartment. And so once the apartment was clear, they both exited the apartment and then called in the crime scene people and the detectives and stuff. And it sounds like they didn't really have a crime scene technician. They had deputies processing the crime scene. So but this deputy said he was able to identify her as Taylor Escontrias because of a tattoo she had that was in their database. That's interesting. Why would her tattoo be in their database? But that's what he said. So they do show the body cam footage of her to the jury, being found by this police officer. And during this time, the defendant, he's kind of biting his lip, and he's looking down, and you can see his breathing is increasing. He's having a reaction to seeing what he has done. And then on cross-examination, this deputy was asked, did you see an empty bottle of vodka in the bedroom? He goes, yes, I did see that. So the next person on the stand is still on the stand this morning. This one took quite a while. He is Detective Greasy. He was tasked with photographing the scene and collecting the physical evidence, which he started on the morning of the 14th. And this attorney, the prosecutor, walks him through. He shows him a floor plan that he drew out by hand, this floor plan. When you enter the apartment, the living room is on your right side. There's a bedroom on your left side. As you go down the hallway, there's a spare bedroom and then the kitchen. I don't know how, it's probably not very large, but in any case, he walks them through each area of the house, and he talks about the photos and his findings in each of these areas. So first he collected the shorts and the shirt from the deputy. That was not until the 15th that he got those, but he talked about those first. He said there were multiple blood stains on the shorts, spatter stains, which were present. Spatter is when the blood is like, on like flicked. And then swipes, like where you're swiping it. And then some pooling, which was probably over that laceration that he had on his abdomen. And same thing with the shirt. There was blood spatter and pooling of blood. All of that was sent, those two items were sent to what's called the BCI, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and they will run DNA testing on it. So he also collected the floor mats from the car, and those were swabbed for blood stains, probable blood stains. There was dried blood on the cell phone that was found in the bedroom. I think this was her cell phone. And when they lifted the cell phone up, there was no blood on the sheet, just on the phone. So that was sent. 7 swabs were taken of this phone and sent to the BCI for testing. Then he talked about the bathroom, which there wasn't much going on in the bathroom, but he photographed some prescription bottles of Christopher Behall. His purpose in doing that was to, he said, it's just some additional evidence showing that he was residing at this house. His medicines in the medicine cabinet in the bathroom. Outside of the bathroom in the hallway was strands of hair that was collected. In the spare bedroom, there was clothing lying on the floor and in bins, but nothing really relevant to the case. In the interior hallway, there were blood stains. There was pooling on the floor, splatter on the wall. All of this gets swabbed and sent to the lab. During this, all of this, these photos being shown to the jury, not to us, but to the jury, the defendant is closing his eyes. He don't want to see it. He said the wall and the door near her body were heavily saturated in blood. But he said that what he was seeing with the blood patterns was showed movement throughout the apartment. Then this morning, he was still on the stand. He talked about collecting the baseball bat. I have not heard him mention screwdriver being found. I know that the knife was collected. I know the baseball bat was collected. I haven't heard anything about a screwdriver from this man. He collected a pink shirt from the victim that was soaked in blood, to the point where they had to put it into a drying place back at their evidence processing to dry it out. And then they packaged it and sent it to the BCI lab. Then the baseball bat was swabbed for blood stains. All of this being sent to the lab. There was blood stains on the couch and the chair. Those were swabbed. Then they get out the photos of the body. And the defendant, he's doing this. He can't look. His eyes are closed. He's looking away. He does not want to see it. So the body's shown near the front door. Not to us. We don't get to see it. Just the jury. Blood on the walls and the door. Blood strikes on her that matched the baseball bat. She had injuries to both ears, both sides of her neck, the right side of her head, and her back. Then he said, following that, the body was transported by a funeral home to the location where the autopsy would occur. that's as far as I got with the testimony. So they adjourned for mid-morning break this morning, so that because the prosecutor forgot one of the sets of photographs or something that he wants to get into evidence before he rests with this guy, or before he finishes up with this witness. Then we're going to have to go through the cross-examination of this guy who took all these photographs. So that'll probably take us through lunch. Then I expect we'll probably hear from the medical examiner, which I am curious about. And I'm curious about this screwdriver. Where did that come in? And where did they find it? Or did they find it? I don't know. Okay, so I will see you guys in the next video, and have a wonderful day. Take care.